I was in Little Hollow a few days ago, a small town in Arizona, looking for stories. I thought it would be a good place to find some local legends. The first night, things felt off. I heard tapping against the walls of my cottage. I tried to tell myself it was just the house settling, but it kept nagging me. As the days went on, the town felt stranger. The locals gave me odd looks, like they knew something I didn't. I overheard bits of their conversations about the past. When I asked, they would stop talking and look away. It felt like I was missing something important. One afternoon, I found old newspaper clippings tucked away in the library. They were about people who had vanished in the area. My stomach dropped. Were the disappearances connected to the tapping? I felt unease creep up my spine. Shadows seemed to follow me, and I could feel something lurking just beyond my sight. I turned around a few times, but nothing was there. There was an old woman in town who stared at me with hollow eyes. She made my skin crawl. I waved at her, trying to be friendly, but she just nodded slowly. I felt an urgency to move away, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. One night, I was reading the clippings before bed. The tapping started again. It was different this time, like a rhythm. My heart raced, and I considered leaving, but my curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to find out what was really going on. The next day, I strolled down the main street, looking for someone to talk to. But people simply glanced at me and hurried away. I thought I was imagining things. I decided to walk near the old church, hoping to find answers. That's when I heard it, a whisper in the wind that made my blood run cold. "You shouldn't have come here." I whipped around, but only the desert wind answered. Panic clawed at my throat. I felt like I was being watched. Then, as I stood frozen in place, I heard my name echo back at me, clear as day. Jake. I turned my head sharply. Nobody was there. I was terrified and confused. Who had called my name? I couldn't shake the feeling that I had done something wrong by being in Little Hollow. I had stumbled upon things that were better off hidden away. As I packed my bags, I looked out the window. The shadows flickered along the street, dancing in and out of sight. Were they watching me? I don't know what I uncovered in that town, but as I drove away, the whispers still echoed in my mind. They couldn't just be my imagination. Little Hollow wasn't just a quiet old town. It was hiding something dark. The real stories felt alive, teasing me even as I left. I still wonder if I escaped in time, or if something followed me back. Maybe some stories are better left untold. As I drove down the winding road away from Little Hollow, the eerie shadows clung to the edges of my mind. I glanced back at the town, its silhouette growing smaller. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread, as if I had escaped something, but also left something behind. The landscape outside my window blurred into a chaotic swirl of desert hues. But relief didn't last long. A strange feeling settled in my gut. I kept imagining that voice whispering my name and the rhythmic tapping that haunted the back of my thoughts. I needed to talk to someone about it, to see if I wasn't the only one feeling this way. Maybe my fears were unfounded. The next town I reached was called Silver Springs. It felt mundane compared to Little Hollow, but the weight of knowledge still hung in the air. I parked my car outside a diner and decided to grab a bite. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped inside. It was busy for a mid-afternoon, full of laughter and casual chatter. I slid into a booth, scanning the faces of the diners. Most were engrossed in their conversations, but a few turned to glance at me. I nodded politely, but their curious stares turned wary just as they had in Little Hollow. As I waited for my food, I couldn't ignore the urge to ask someone about the town's stories. I caught the eye of an older man sitting alone at the counter, nursing a cup of coffee. I took a deep breath and approached him. "Excuse me, sir. I just drove in from Little Hollow," I began, trying to sound casual. "Have you heard anything strange about it?" His expression soured. Best not to talk about that place, he muttered, looking down into his cup. I pressed on, leaning closer. I heard some weird stories, people disappearing and whispers. It's like the town is hiding something. He glanced around, then back at me. It does that. You shouldn't have gone there. A chill ran down my spine. Why not? He hesitated, his hands shaking slightly. If you play with the past plays back. Just be careful what you dig up. I felt a wave of unease wash over me. His words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I wanted to ask more, but something in his eyes warned me off. Instead, I nodded and backed away slowly. Then, just as I stepped back towards my booth, there was a sudden commotion near the entrance. A girl burst through the door, her face pale as a ghost. "They're coming! They're coming!" she cried. My heart raced. Everyone turned to stare, and a heavy silence fell. The man at the counter looked up sharply, his expression shifting to grim understanding. I froze, fear curling around my heart. "What are you talking about?" someone asked. "From Little Hollow, I saw..."
"Them!" she shouted, her breath hitching. "They're following me!" I felt as though the room had tilted. The world outside the diner seemed to darken, shadows creeping past the windows. I took a hesitant step back. I had left Little Hollow, but was it truly behind me? That's when I felt it, a sudden drop in temperature, as if all the warmth had been sucked out of the room. My pulse quickened. I wasn't sure if I was ready for whatever was about to unfold. The girl continued to panic, but all I could think was, what did I let follow me? The panic in the diner escalated. People were murmuring, casting worried glances toward the windows. The girl looked desperate. "You have to believe me. I ran from them," she cried, her eyes wide with terror. I felt trapped. My instinct was to flee, but something kept me rooted. Maybe it was the shared urgency in the room, or the horrifying thought that whatever was following her could very well be following me, too. I took a step forward, driven by a mix of compassion and curiosity. "What did you see?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. "They were just shadows at first," she stammered, looking over her shoulder as if expecting them to appear. "But then they took shape. They were like people, but not. They had these eyes, like black holes. I swear they were reaching for me." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. "Get her out of here," someone muttered harshly, pushing away from the counter. The older man from before stood up too, his chair scraping against the linoleum floor as he moved toward the door. "Don't look," he shouted over his shoulder. "Just leave her be." But I felt drawn in. What the hell was happening? I was supposed to be free, away from Little Hollow and its dark grip. Only, what if the darkness had followed me after all? My thoughts raced. I glanced to the windows and felt a shiver run down my spine. The sky outside had turned an unnatural shade of gray, as if warning us. "Listen," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to figure out what's going on. Is there somewhere safe we can go? Together?" The girl shook her head frantically. "There's nowhere safe. They follow you." Her voice rose, and I could see the panic taking over again. I thought I could make it, but they're too strong. Before I knew it, the other customers began to back away from her. A few whispered to each other, shaking their heads. It was like watching a tide pull away from the shore, leaving only uncertainty behind. A deep, gut-wrenching fear churned inside me. What if I was about to stand alone, isolated in this strange new town? The older man had reached the doorframe now, and suddenly his expression blurred into something more pained, familiar. "We can't help her," he said, voice low. "Not if we want to survive." "Survive?" I echoed, bewildered. It was as though a dark veil hung over the diner, a weight closing in around us. Just then, a loud crash came from the opposite side of the diner, and everyone jumped. Glass shattered, and a figure stumbled in. It had the same hollow eyes the girl described, the same shadows that felt all too real. My heart pounded in my chest.
I took a step back, and as I did, I realized something chilling. "They're not just shadows," I whispered, eyes wide. Then came the unmistakable sound of a whisper, barely louder than a breeze. "Join us," it crooned, echoing from that dark figure as if teasing the edges of my sanity. I felt the ground shift beneath me. I was about to find out if I truly escaped Little Hollow. I needed to leave, and fast. But something deep inside me wondered if there was any escaping at all. The figure lurched forward, dragging itself into the diner with a low, dragging sound. It seemed almost human, but the way its limbs contorted and the way its head tilted unnaturally made it clear it wasn't. I took another step back, my breath catching in my throat. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The room was silent, everyone frozen, eyes darting between me and the creature. "Join us," the whisper echoed again, deeper this time, reaching out to the corners of my mind. I felt a cold sweat forming on my forehead. How could I be feeling fear like this again? I had worked so hard to be free. The girl backed away, shaking her head in terror. "No, no, it can't take you," she yelled, stumbling over her words. "You'll be lost forever." Then the creature snapped its head toward her, its black hole eyes locking onto hers. I could sense the tension rising like a thick fog. People in the diner started to inch toward the door, eyes wide with a desperation that mirrored mine. I didn't know how to get out of this situation safely, but I felt the walls creeping closer. "Stop!" I yelled, trying to regain some sense of control. "We can't just leave her." But even as I said it, I felt the urge to flee deepen. The shadows in the room flickered, and the diner lights buzzed with a sickly frequency. I turned toward the door, but the older man had already blocked it, his fear evident. "We can't let it escape," he said, voice trembling. "If they take you, you could lead them straight to us." The creature took a step forward, its movements jerky and unsettling. I could feel its presence wrapping around my mind like a vine, squeezing tighter. "Join us," it repeated, more insistent now. I had to think. There had to be something we could do. My eyes swept the diner, searching for anything that might help. That's when I noticed the back door leading
to the kitchen. I turned to the girl. "We need to go there, now." "No, it's worse there," she shrieked, her eyes wild. But before I could respond, a loud crash resonated again. Another figure squeezed through the front entrance, its body twisting unnaturally, joining the first. They both advanced, the air thick with malevolence. Panic hit me when I felt something tugging at my mind, some pulse that beckoned me to join them. "Fight it," I shouted to myself, pushing against the urge to succumb. "Let's go," I shouted again, grabbing the girl by the arm. I was scared, but I couldn't leave her behind, not again. We sprinted toward the kitchen door. I could hear the others trampling behind us, fear pushing them to follow. Just as we reached the door, the figure lunged at us. I turned to look back, a frantic glance over my shoulder. The diner was already a swirling mass of shadows. Was there nowhere safe, not even here? Then everything went dark. The lights flickered off, plunging us into a suffocating blackness. I felt the pull of shadows creep closer, and in that moment, I realized I had to break free or risk being swallowed whole. I stumbled through the kitchen door, dragging the girl with me. The air felt thick and humid, almost suffocating. I could hear faint clattering sounds, like metal pots colliding with each other, echoing in the darkness. "Where are we?" she gasped, trying to pull free. Panic was flooding her voice. "I don't know, but we can't stay out there," I replied, peering into the shadows. The back of the diner was swathed in dim light, and the faint outline of cooking equipment loomed around us like haunting silhouettes. Suddenly, I heard a shriek. It wasn't from the diner, but from deeper inside the kitchen. A split second later, a metallic swing door flew open, smacking against the wall. I flinched. A tall figure, dressed in what looked like a bloody apron, emerged. Its face was hidden beneath a disheveled cap. I felt a shiver run through me. "Get out!" it yelled, voice hoarse yet urgent. There was a crazed look in its eyes, a wild panic that sent warning bells ringing in my mind. I opened my mouth to question it, but the girl pulled on my arm, urging me to move. "Come on," she pleaded, eyes darting toward the exit. As we rushed past the kitchen figure, I caught a glimpse of its hands. They were smeared with what I hoped was just grease, but the smell wasn't right. It reeked of something rotten. I turned my head, focusing ahead. An ominous thud echoed from the diner, followed by a low, rhythmic hum that seemed to vibrate through the walls. It felt like the shadows were crawling in behind us, closing off our escape. "Where do we go?" I asked, the uncertainty creeping back in. The girl just shook her head. "I don't know!" she screamed, panic bursting out of her. Then I noticed a small window over the sink. It was grimy and barely large enough for us to crawl through, but it was a way out. "There," I pointed. Just as we moved toward it, the lights flickered weakly. I spun around. The monstrous figures were crawling into the kitchen, their movements grotesque and unnatural. I braced myself, pushing the girl ahead of me. "Climb," I urged. She hesitated, still caught in fear. It was almost too late. Without thinking, I shoved her up, and she grabbed the ledge. With a desperate scramble, she pulled herself through. I turned back just in time to see one of the creatures lurch toward me. Its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. I lunged for the window, my heart pounding. I felt a cold rush of air behind me, but I couldn't look back. I pushed through the narrow opening, scraping my shoulders as I made it outside. Both of us landed on the ground with a thud, rolling away from the diner. We were outside, but that relief was short-lived. The darkness was alive with sounds, whispers, distant and sinister. I scrambled to my feet, pulling the girl up beside me. "What now?" she gasped, fear striking her voice again. I scanned the area, desperate for a place to hide. That's when I spotted a row of trees lining the diner's perimeter. I pointed, "Over there, we have to go." As we sprinted toward the cover of the trees, I felt the air grow cold, thick with anticipation. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Just as we reached the edge of the trees, a rustling sound broke through the darkness. My stomach dropped. Someone was there. My breath hitched, and I turned slowly, half expecting to see an old friend. But what stood before us was far from familiar. The figure stepped into the fragmented light, and I felt a jolt of recognition. I staggered back, mind racing, horrified. It was someone I thought I had lost long ago, but who now stood at the edge of danger. "What are you doing here?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. But the response was not what I expected. The figure before us was a ghost of my past, a reminder of those days before everything had gone wrong. "I came to find you," they said, their voice shaky. The dim light revealed familiar features, someone I had long mourned. "But how? You're supposed to be—" I struggled to find the words, my mind racing. The girl beside me shuddered, glancing back toward the ominous diner. I could feel her frustration mixing with fear. "There's no time," my friend continued urgently. "We need to leave now." "What do you mean? What happened?" I pressed, but I couldn't shake the disbelief. The danger felt very real right then, pressing in around us from the shadows. "They're coming. You have to trust me." They pointed to the thick cover of trees beyond where the figure stood, shadows shifting unnaturally. I hesitated. "What are you talking about?" "They know you're here. We must go, now!" The girl beside me gripped my arm tighter, her panic evident. I looked back toward the diner, where shapes flickered against the windows like demons in a nightmare.
In that moment, it clicked. The monstrous figures had been drawn out by something, or someone. I could feel the urge to run tugging at me, but my old friend was still a puzzle I couldn't piece together. "Are you safe? Is it really you?" I asked, for a desperate second lost in the past. "I'm alive, but not for long if we stay here." There was an intensity in their eyes that I couldn't ignore. "They won't stop until they find us. We need to move." "Who won't stop?" I shouted, growing frustrated. My heart raced. I glanced at the girl next to me. Her eyes were wide with confusion and fear. Suddenly, the trees trembled, and a guttural growl echoed from deeper in the woods. The air buzzed with something sinister, turning the hairs on my neck to ice. I turned back, meeting my friend's gaze. What the hell was that? "They're here!" they exclaimed, urgency spilling into every word. "Follow me!" Without waiting for a reply, my friend darted into the trees, leaving the girl and me standing there. I hesitated for only a moment, watching the shadows of the diner stretch longer, creeping toward us. Then I grabbed the girl's hand. "Come on!" I pulled her along as we dashed after my friend. We plunged into the darkness of the trees, leaves crunching underfoot. My heart raced as we zigzagged through the foliage, branches clawing at us. We finally stopped to catch our breath, hidden behind a thick trunk. The forest was darker than I expected, the shadows closing in tighter. I leaned against the rough bark, my eyes scanning the area. "Who are those things?" the girl whispered. I could see the panic boiling over in her eyes. "I don't know," I admitted, trying to steady my shaking hands, "but we need to stay quiet." Just then, a faint sound reached us from the direction we had come. The rustling intensified, and then a low, menacing whisper flowed through the air. It made my blood run cold. "There they are," it hissed. Panic surged anew in my chest. Something was coming, and we were trapped. My heart pounding, I glanced toward my friend, but they had vanished into the darkness. Suddenly, I felt a tug on my arm. The girl was pulling me away from the trunk. "We can't stay here." Before I could respond, she turned and bolted deeper into the trees, and I followed her blindly. But as we ran, my breathing felt labored, and an overwhelming sense of dread washed over me. Then, everything went dark. I gasped as I hit the ground. The forest floor was cold
And rough beneath me, the faint smell of damp earth filling my lungs. I blinked, trying to regain my bearings, but the darkness pressed in all around. I had lost sight of the girl. "Are you okay?" I called out, my voice shaky and swallowed by the thick air. Silence hung heavily, punctuated only by the distant rustle of leaves. "I'm here!" she shouted back, relief flooding me at the sound of her voice. I scrambled to find her, my hands brushing against wet foliage and sharp branches. The ground felt unstable. Every step I took left me teetering on the edge of panic. I feared the shadows were alive, wrapping around me like coils, threatening to squeeze the breath from my lungs. Then I heard it again, a low growl, this time closer and more menacing. "Over here!" I heard her voice again, panic bubbling in it. I stumbled toward the sound, my thoughts racing. I had to reach her. As I turned a corner, the pale light of the moon broke through the trees, illuminating her silhouette. She was crouched near a massive boulder. "Quick, we can hide!" I rushed to her side, and we pressed ourselves against the rough stone. I could feel her tremble next to me. The growl returned, a guttural sound that sent chills racing down my spine. My instincts screamed that whatever was out there was hunting us. "What do we do?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Shh," I urged, daring to peek around the boulder. My heart hammered as dark shapes scuttled in the distance. It was as if shadows flickered and danced, moving with an unnatural grace. Fear gripped me. What were these things? "Do you think it saw us?" she asked, her eyes wide with terror. "I don't know," I answered, forcing my breath to remain steady despite the looming dread.
That's when I heard a new noise, pitter-patter, like footsteps approaching. We pressed ourselves tighter against the boulder, heartbeats synchronizing in a synchronized rhythm of fear. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something glinting behind a nearby bush. "What's that?" I pointed, feeling an odd mix of curiosity and anxiety. "Maybe it could help us." "Don't," she hissed, gripping my arm tighter. "It could be a trap." Just then, the growling stopped. Silence enveloped us again, heavy and expectant. I stayed frozen, my eyes darting from the glimmering object to the shadows that flickered. Something was watching us. Against every instinct urging me to stay put, I took a breath and said, "I have to check it out." Before she could protest, I crept toward the shimmering thing. It was a knife, half buried in the ground, glinting under the moonlight. As my fingers wrapped around the handle, a soft rustling sounded behind me. Panic exploded in my chest. "Go!" I yelled, sprinting back towards her, the knife clutched tightly in my hand. Then, out of the darkness, it lunged. I barely had time to process it. Before my vision blurred, it was gone, but not without leaving me with a metallic taste in my mouth and pure adrenaline coursing through my veins. As I staggered backward, the shadows pulsed around me, dark and chaotic. I turned to the girl, whose face was a mask of fear. "We need to..." But my words got lost in the growl that erupted again, a haunting sound echoing in the stillness. "What was that?" she whispered, eyes wide in terror. I could barely see her, but I felt the tremors shaking her body. The knife felt heavy in my hand, a meager weapon for an unseen foe. "Stay quiet," I whispered, my voice low and urgent. We slid behind the boulder, pressing ourselves into the rough stone. The growl resonated again, closer this time, accompanied by the crunch of leaves and twigs. It was hunting us, and I knew we had to move. "What do we do now?" she urged, desperation creeping into her voice. There was a narrow gap between the boulder and the thick brush. I glanced at it, instinctively calculating our chances. "We can slip through there," I gestured, my heart pounding. Without waiting for her response, I edged toward the opening. "Are you insane?" she hissed, but I couldn't look back. The growling was getting louder, more vicious, as if it could sense our fear. I crawled forward, and she reluctantly followed. The brush scraped against my arms, leaving little stings as we wormed our way through. The sound of claws on stone echoed behind us, snapping my focus back to the danger just steps away. I crouched low, heart racing, but I could barely breathe as I heard the creature crash into the boulder. It let out a piercing snarl that made the ground shudder. I glanced back and could barely make out a dark figure on 4 legs. It was huge. Its eyes glimmered like hollow lamps in the darkness. "Go!" I urged, pushing her forward through the underbrush. We scrambled through, tearing at branches and leaves until we burst into a small clearing. The moonlight bathed us in silver, but it felt wrong, as if the light knew our dread. We paused, breathless, scanning the perimeter. There were trees encircling us, a prison of trunks and shadows. I still felt the cold grip of fear, and the adrenaline coursed through my veins. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught my eye, a glimmer near the edge of the clearing. "Wait," I hissed, pointing toward it. "There's something over there." "What if it's a trap?" she replied, her voice shaky. "I don't care. We need to find something, anything that can help us," I insisted, feeling the pull of curiosity outweigh my fear. With a nod, we slowly moved toward it. As we approached, the glimmer revealed itself to be a small, tarnished bell laying in a patch of soft moss. I picked it up, its weight surprising in my hand. It was strange, like nothing I had ever seen before. "Look at this," I said, turning it over to see intricate carvings on its surface. They looked like symbols, swirling and intertwining. I felt a strange tingling sensation as I held it, a warning or a call. Then the growl echoed from behind us again.
But this time, it was different. The rhythm changed, like an unnatural chant. My stomach dropped, realizing that the bell had awakened something worse than we could imagine. "We need to go," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We turned to flee, but as we did, shadows surged in from all directions, obscuring the path. Just when I thought we were lost, a flicker of bright light shot from the bell, illuminating the abyss of darkness around us. What had I just unearthed? The brightness from the bell flooded the clearing, and for a moment, it felt like a lifeline. The shadows recoiled, twisting back into the trees. I could breathe again, but the relief was short-lived. "What is happening?" the girl whispered, staring wide-eyed at the light. I didn't have a clue, but I felt drawn to it. The symbols on the bell seemed to dance, glowing more intensely. Then the growl returned, stronger, echoing deeper in the woods. It wasn't just a sound, it was a vibration that rattled my bones. I turned to look, and my gut churned as I saw the creature's shape emerging from the darkness. It was more massive than I thought, muscles rippling under coarse fur. Its eyes glared at me, full of hunger and wrath. "Keep holding it," I shouted, desperate. "Maybe it can keep them away." Her fingers tightened around the bell, but I could see the fear tearing at her resolve. "What now?" "We need to find a way out," I said, scanning the perimeter. The trees loomed like sentinels, their gnarled branches reaching out as if to trap us. "That way," I pointed towards a narrow path that cut through the ferns, barely visible in the moonlight. She nodded, her shaky breath forming clouds in the cool air. We moved as quietly as we could, still clutching the bell. With each step, I felt the darkness close in around us, but the light emanating from the bell pushed it back, if only slightly. Just as we entered the path, the growling intensified. The creature lunged, charging at us with staggering speed. I barely had time to react, raising the bell high. "Back!" I yelled, and as if responding to my command, the light flared even brighter. The creature halted, rearing back with a snarl as the light engulfed it. "Keep it up," she shouted as she ran forward, pulling me along. I stumbled but followed her lead. We dashed down the path, the growling fading into growls of confusion. But that only lasted a moment. As we reached the end of the path, we found ourselves at another clearing. This one was different. The air felt charged, thick with something I couldn't place. In the center of the clearing stood a tall, twisted statue, its features obscured by age and ivy. The bell vibrated in my hand, buzzing with energy. I knew it wanted to be near the statue. "What are we doing here?" she asked, breathless. I had no answer, but instinct took control. "Let's put the bell on the statue." Without waiting for her response, I approached the base and set the bell down. The moment it touched the stone, a sudden shockwave rippled through the air. I stumbled back, a scream lodged in my throat. The statue began to glow with the same eerie light as the bell, illuminating the surrounding woods. And then, everything went dark. I felt the ground shift beneath me, and a frigid chill snaked up my spine. The creature's growl had returned, but this time it was joined by whispers, cackling, sinister voices that chanted in a language I couldn't understand. Desperation surged through me. "We need to get out of here," I shouted, trying to find the girl among the shadows. But the darkness was thick, swallowing her presence. "Where are you?" Her voice trembled. "Over here," I yelled, but nothing echoed back. Before I could take another step, the statue released an unholy light, blinding me. When my vision cleared, the clearing was empty. "Where did she go?" I gasped, heart pounding. Then I heard it. A low growl came from behind me. It was closer now. "Not again," I murmured, bracing myself. That's when I saw it. A figure stood in the darkness, and this time, it wasn't the creature.
I nearly stumbled as the figure emerged from the shadows, their outline barely visible against the looming darkness. My breath caught in my throat. It was the old woman from Little Hollow, her hollow eyes burning with a strange intensity. "You shouldn't have come here," she rasped, her voice echoing with an unnatural resonance. Before I could respond, her head tilted slightly, studying me as if weighing my very essence. "Where's the girl?" I shouted, panic rising in my chest. "Lost," she said, each word dripping with a chilling detachment. "Like all the others. You think you can simply walk away from the past?" A jolt of fear shot through me. The shadows around us thickened, swarming in closer. The growl of the creature reverberated through the ground, and I could feel its malevolent hunger. "No," I gasped. I didn't know if I could fight whatever was coming for me. "The bell," she continued, almost as if ignoring my plea, "protects you, but only for so long." "Protects me from what?" I pleaded, my desperation bubbling over as the growling echoed louder, a dark chorus on the edge of my sanity. "Join the shadows or be devoured. Those are your choices," she said, her voice growing distant as shadows shifted behind her, swirling like a fog. In a moment of clarity, I realized that the growls were no longer just in front of me. They surrounded us, climbing higher and higher. There was something swarming, something looming just beyond my vision. The bell vibrated in my hand as if sensing the encroaching danger. The old woman's eyes glimmered with something that felt like anticipation. "You've stirred things that should remain silent. You think your curiosity keeps you safe, but it only invites them closer." With an instinctive motion, I brought the bell forward. In that moment, a flicker of light burst forth, illuminating the area around us. The shadows recoiled again, shrieking as if burned by the light. For a moment, I could see them, figures that were human-shaped, with eyes like black voids, reaching out to me. A pulse of courage surged through me. "No!" I shouted defiantly. "You will not take me!" I turned and bolted down the overgrown path I had stumbled onto before. I could feel the shadows pursuing me, the whispers hissing, "Stay, join us." But I wouldn't surrender. The bell thrummed violently, pushing me forward. Suddenly, I broke free from the tree line and burst into an open field. The moonlight flooded over me, and an overwhelming wave of relief washed over as I spun around. The shadows halted at the tree line, seething but unwilling to cross. The old woman stood at the edge, her expression an inscrutable mask. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, but deep down, I knew I would never know. Then I heard a voice, soft, familiar, almost like a melody carried by the wind. "Jake, over here!" Anxiety gripped me, and I turned to see the girl emerging from the shadows of the trees. She was disheveled but unharmed. "Come on," she urged, adrenaline sparking her eyes. "We can't stay here." In that moment, together we sprinted away from the cursed ground, hearts pounding with terror and hope. But as I glanced over my shoulder, the old woman's gaze held steady, and the shadows writhed behind her, pulsing with dark life, as if they would always remain, watching, waiting. Even as we escaped, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed us back to the world beyond. We didn't stop running until we reached my car. I fumbled with the keys, desperate to leave that place behind. As the engine roared to life, I shot one last glance at the trees, at the glowing eyes in the far distance. They lingered there, an unbreakable connection to a past that refused to let go. I moved away from Little Hollow, I told the girl as we drove into the night, but I'll never forget what happened there. "Do you think it's really over?" she asked, her voice tinged with an unsettling uncertainty. "I hope so," I replied, but I couldn't help but feel like we had merely scratched the surface of something much darker. The quiet hum that remained in the air told me some stories were never truly done, and as my grip tightened around the steering wheel, I realized I would always carry Little Hollow with me, even if I could never go back.